Welcome back in, everyone. Well, you can never have too many safety reminders when it comes to your life and your property. We have South Bend Fire Department's Assistant Chief of Fire Prevention, Derek Urquhart, in studio with us. Derek, your team has been responding to more kitchen-related fires lately, it seems?
Yeah, kitchen fires are one of the leading causes of home fires in the U.S. Recently, we were tracking about at least 8 that were directly related to cooking incidents in the last month to month and a half. So we just wanted to get the word out, give some pointers for some people to make sure they're cooking safely at home.
Absolutely. I know there's a lot of myths, right, when it comes to how to respond to a kitchen fire, baking soda, water. If you're cooking and a fire starts, what do you do? Yeah,
I think the biggest thing is remain calm, right? We don't want to panic. There's things that we can do depending on what you're cooking with. Obviously, we've got a couple things here. If you're cooking with oil, I think that's one of the leading causes that we see is frying stuff. So if the oil does happen to catch on fire, the biggest thing is making sure you have a pan that has a lid that fits on the top. So use the lid, try to do the best you can to cover it, and what you're trying to do is remove the oxygen and smother that fire. Baking soda does work. It just tends to take a lot of baking soda in order to put the fire out. Some of the other things we have here, always make sure you have a fire extinguisher in your home. They make these smaller versions that are made for residential home use. Just don't be too close. We don't want somebody to be right over the pot or the pan that might be on fire. Just have some distance, be a few feet away when you're going to use that, because you don't want to splash whatever the liquid or spread the fire.
That's a good reminder too, to have it accessible, because you may have one in your kitchen, but if it's buried deep behind something, you want to be able to have it handy, right?
Readily available. The other thing with that is, we don't want to leave cooking unattended. So anytime we're in the kitchen, we're cooking, we're prepping a meal, make sure you're always present in the kitchen, keeping an eye on things. Unattended things are what seem to catch on fire, obviously. So early detection. So if you do notice something catches on fire, and then early notification, call 911. Get us started. Even if you happen to get the fire out, we can always go back home. So call 911, make sure that we're responding, and then we make sure that the fire is fully extinguished.
And when is the time to call 911? If someone's questioning,
early enough, it's always better to get us started and then say, no, we don't need you, rather than have it be too late and a fire spreads. Obviously, a couple of the pictures that we had shared from some of the incidents that we had, we've seen everything from a pizza box that was left on top of a stove top, which was a gas stove. So we just think that pizza box ignited from the pilot lights.
Okay.
One was a grease fire, pan caught on fire. So the biggest thing with oil is the temperature. So make sure your temperature doesn't get too hot. If oil starts to smoke, that's when it's getting too late. It's obviously way too hot at that point. So we want to remove the heat or turn it down. Make sure you have a temperature gauge, a thermometer for your oil, so that way you're keeping on it. And once it gets too hot, oil can auto-ignite. So once again, it doesn't need a spark or a flame to catch on fire. Once that oil gets too hot, it starts to smoke. It can just do auto-ignition.
So what are some of the most common situations that you see happening?
So a lot of it's unattended. It's items on top of the stovetop. Like I said, the stovetop is not a good place for storage of items. We don't want to leave food on top of the stovetop, or anything for that matter, rags, stuff of that. Other things we want to be aware of, depending on your stove, if the knobs are in the back, it's a little bit better. Some stoves have the knobs in the front. We have had a couple of incidents over the years, even one recently in this past month of fires, where the potential was there that a pet potentially turned the knob of the stove on. So something to be aware of. They do make guards and they do make knob protectors. So if you do have children and or pets, you can get those protectors for your knobs, especially if they're in the front of your stove, so they don't accidentally get turned on.
Those recent kitchen fires we just looked at, no injuries in any of those?
There was one reported injury,
okay.
And that was oil, cooking with oil, and unfortunately the resident tried to pick the pan up and move it to get it outside, and then it caused to be splashed at that point. So there was a reported injury. Unfortunately, that's what we don't want you to do. We don't want you to try to pick it up. Water is a no-go, obviously, with anything oil and an oil-related fire. It's only going to make it worse and spread. So thus, having a proper lid, or even, as we got a baking sheet, this is flat, you can slide that over the top of a pan too, to try to smother that fire. So,
because these fires can get out of control pretty quickly, right?
Yes, and that goes back to the being present in the kitchen, detecting it, and then notifying us. Like I said, call 911. Don't hesitate on that part of it. Even if you are going to try to do that, call 911, but then try to turn the oven off, remove the heat, try to smother it, and or use an extinguishing agent.
All right, Derek, thank you for those tips. Very, very appreciated. It's never too much to be safe, right?
Yes, exactly.
All right, thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
We will have more from the South Bend Fire Department in the second half of the show, talking about hiring initiatives, so stay tuned for that. We'll be right back after this short break.